Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then available on demand. We are available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and of course, YouTube and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. And this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ plus community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Let's begin by welcoming anchor Elijah Manley. Elijah is a community organizer, activist, and formerly the youngest ever candidate for the Florida House of Representatives. He is the owner of Benchmark Strategies, a South Florida consulting firm. Welcome, Elijah.
Thank you, and it's great to be here. I just want to give a shout out to the Everglades Trust Foundation, an organization working to support Everglades restoration and clean water. Let's welcome anchor Dr. Tai Houser. He's an associate professor of English and Humanities at Broward College. Additionally, he teaches for extended periods of time at international colleges in China, India, Spain, and Bolivia. Good evening, Tai.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's welcome Cindy Brown. She's an icon in the LGBTQ plus community. She was an early organizer of Miami AIDS Walk, the White Party for Care Resource, and other major events. She has served as the executive director of Miami-Dade Gay and Lesbian Chamber Foundation and LGBTQ Visitor Center. She is the founding executive director of Miami Beach Pride and currently serves as the program manager for Jewish Community Services LGBTQ Lambda Living Program for LGBT seniors. Good evening, Cindy.
Good evening. I'm so happy to be here putting the L in LGBTQ. Yes, have to have a little L. And to all of our viewers out there who are celebrating Yom Kippur, I wish you an easy fast. Shana Tova. Now, let's welcome anchor Jeff Oliverio. Jeff is a founder and treasurer of the Hollywood LGBTQ Plus Council, a unique community civic organization in Greater Hollywood. The council will be hosting the second annual My Hollywood Pride on January 29th of 2023. He is also the chair for the 2022 National LGBTQ Task Force Gala, Red, White, and You, being held October 22nd at Miami Beach Convention Center. The gala, along with its sister event, Winter Party Festival, has given back more than $3.3 million to local LGBTQ community organizations. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening, and in honor of one of our other friends who's usually here, it's National Taco Day, I believe. So I want to give a shout out to taco lovers everywhere. Happy Taco Tuesday. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Tuesday, October 4th, 2022.
Well, let's begin by querying up South Florida and Florida. South Florida opens America's first LGBTQ plus voting center, supporting November 8 midterms. Wilton Drive is home to one of the most important LGBTQ plus communities in America. And at Queer News Tonight, we always joke Fort Lauderdale is the gayest place on planet Earth. But even with all the pride parades, 40,000 revelers at Wilton Manor's Halloween, a dizzying array of LGBTQ plus bars, restaurants, stores, shopping centers, and more, something new will happen this weekend: an election for our queer rights. And the number for November 8 midterms is 2348 Wilton Drive. Directly across the street from one of the world's largest queer bars, the Manor Complex, comes what is believed to be America's first LGBTQ plus Get Out the Vote Center. The giant storefront is hosted by a unique partnership between Fort Lauderdale's Dolphin Democrats and the Florida LGBTQ plus Democratic Caucus. The Dolphin Democrats is Broward County's LGBTQ plus political advocacy group, and the Florida Caucus has more than 20 chapters in cities all across the state of Florida. The voting center will be open every day from now until the midterm election on November 8th. The Queer Get Out the Vote headquarters is supported by major local, statewide, and national candidates that the caucus and Dolphin Dems has endorsed, and for issues and candidates that support the LGBTQ plus community. From school boards to city commissioners, the State House, to members of Congress and the U.S. Senate. Queer News Tonight believes that this is the first major on-site activation of a Get Out the Queer vote. Stephen Gaskell, president of the Florida LGBTQ plus Democratic Caucus, said, quote, "This is a clear statement by the LGBTQ plus community that we are facing the election of a lifetime. With the attacks of 2022 on our community, DeSantis' desires for a national anti-LGBTQ plus agenda, we must bring the fight to the streets. And that begins on Wilton Drive, Queer Main Street, USA." End quote. Major attention will focus on the race for Florida's governor and Charlie Crist's defeat of one of America's greatest anti-LGBTQ plus voices, presidential candidate and Governor Ron DeSantis. Another major focus is Val Deming's race against another major anti-LGBTQ plus leader in America, Senator Marco Rubio. This historic Get Out the Queer voting center will open in just a few short days and was made possible by Jeffrey Seltzer Law Firm. Hours will be from 2 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Saturday, and 12 noon to 7 p.m. on Sundays, daily up to November 8th. Get out and vote. Your rights are at stake. I think this is incredible news. First off, it's an amazing nod to our LGBTQ community that something this large would appear on Wilton Drive. So right along our bars and our shops and our stores and our community, we put our politics right dead center in it, across the street from one of the largest gay bars in the entire world. And I agree with Gaskell's observation that this is a loud statement to say, look, we're putting the November 8th midterm right front and center, not only in terms of publicity and the marketing, but actually seeing the activation right on the street, where candidates can come in and talk. You can meet candidates in regular rotations. You can get campaign material. You can, I imagine they're going to do voting registration there. You don't vote there. Right. Clearly, this is to activate up to the November 8th. But it's really, really quite incredible. And frankly, I've never seen anything like it in the United States.
What's really nice is that it's recognizing us as a significant voting bloc here in Florida and across the world, really, or across the country, really. And it's going to be a daily visual reminder to those of us who like to stumble up and down the drive at various hours. I'm not saying who likes to do that, but it's going to be a daily visual reminder that it's
Ty, you talking to me? Because I'm talking to you. Right?
But a daily visual reminder that we need to be participating in our democracy.
Yeah, and I also think it's a great opportunity for those elected officials and candidates to have an opportunity to address folks one-on-one as they come into the places, whether it's the candidate themselves or their staff, in order to provide more voter education. I think that one of the biggest missings in our whole election system is voter education. And unless you create an easy opportunity for people to get it, they're not going to go in search of it. So I say, bravo, this is awesome.
I think there was a word used, stumble, because I think a lot of people are stumbling through this election season and they don't know what's going on. So I hope this does serve as a reminder for people who are not keeping their eyes open and that are active, because I think there's far too many of them that are out at our drinking establishments and other places and not getting engaged in the political process. So I think the location of this is very smart because it's visual.
You know, and to that point, Elijah, I kind of focus on you. You've just run for the Florida House, youngest candidate to ever run. Congratulations for doing that and stepping up for our community and people of color. What do you think about the this voting center?
I think it's actually a wonderful thing that they brought the politics to the community. Usually in general elections, candidates put their campaign offices in, nice suites on maybe the second floor. But to have a campaign office for gubernatorial candidates and our U.S. Senate candidate right here in the heart of the LGBT community shows that we are important and we can stumble into the voting booth on November 8th and remove those who are fighting against our rights.
I think it also demonstrates the voting power of the LGBTQ plus community. We have so much power in our vote, we just have to use it.
Yeah. You know, one last note that I want to make, Dolphin Democrats and the Florida LGBTQ Democratic Caucus, I applaud their thinking here, because one of the things that is also behind this, it could be at South Beach, it could be in other locations, could be in Hollywood, on Hollywood Boulevard, but very specifically in Wilton Drive for LGBT, this is a pitch to not only give you an activation where you can walk in and touch, but it also gives you a psychological effect of importance. Being on Wilton Drive is a psychological effect. And bravo to them for doing this, because if for no other reason, Orlando Gonzalez at SAVE, I know the task force is going to talk about this infinita on October 22nd, 2% of Broward County turnout changes the election.
Right.
Just 2% for the entire state of Florida. Charlie Crist wins, Val Demings wins with a 2% increase of voter turnout in Broward County. Now the question is whether we do or not.
Right.
And just to tell you what that looks like, 30,000 votes was the margin that Ron DeSantis, our current governor, won by in 2018. So
that's not very many votes in this state.
Not very many LGBTQ votes.
Right.
Get out and vote. Regardless of who you're voting for, get out there to do it.
Right.
Well, next, we're going to queer up the road to Stonewall. Here is how LGBTQ History Month started and why it matters. In 1994, a Missouri high school teacher named Rodney Wilson, the first out public school teacher in the state, wanted to give students better access to LGBTQ+ history, as well as more role models with whom they could identify. He established a planning committee with LGBTQ+ leaders from around the country, and from there, Gay and Lesbian History Month was born. The group selected October for what would ultimately become LGBTQ+ History Month because the school would be in session. October is also when we celebrate National Coming Out Day on the 11th. The two LGBTQ+ marches on Washington in 1979 and 1987 also took place in October. In 1995, the National Education Association passed a resolution officially recognizing it as a commemorative month. In 2006, the civil rights organization Equality Forum became the official organizer and promoter of the month. Each year, Equality Forum selects 31 icons to honor, one for each day. Today, as conservatives continue their widespread attacks on the rights of LGBTQ+ students, LGBTQ+ History Month feels more crucial than ever, serving to remind LGBTQ+ youth people that they are part of a long, storied history of strength, resilience, and bravery. And I think that's great that we pause as a news station here to remember why this all takes place. The history of our people, the history of our kind is very important. And
of the fight.
Right.
And the fact that it began in a high school, where really that's where progress happens.
I wonder what's going on in Florida's high schools today. Oh, wait. No.
Yeah. Nothing like this.
Well, you know, the students are making noise. And, you know, there was a Supreme Court or a court decision that came down today regarding the lawsuit against the governor and the quote unquote don't say gay bill. And the judge ruled in the state's favor.
Yeah, I actually had some friends that were involved with the case. I know it was seen as somewhat of a defeat. However, you know, again, in legalese, you know, bringing these cases up sometimes is not to win, but to be visible about the issue to begin with. So I think that's a win.
And to continue to push on.
And to continue to fight.
Yeah.
I love the Equality Forum, the leaders. We've been posting a lot of those on the LGBTQ Council Facebook page to commemorate them. And we try to make history a big part of what the council does to even track the LGBTQ history in Hollywood and beyond as part of one of the missions to keep telling those stories. So I love this.
You know, and one of the things for me that October has always been important for LGBT month is sometimes I'm a little critical of June. And June has dramatic visibility of the entire year, of course. Ad nauseum, we do in the 3 months leading up to June, every trope that every business on the planet, they paint a rainbow on something and say, okay, you know, here's your lunchbox, or here's your condoms, or whatever it is that is being sold. Okay. That's what June has turned out to be in terms of pride parades and celebrations, and there's a place for that. October is very different, in my opinion. History Month allows us to have a month-long focus on community, but the who has been important to us, why it's been important to us. And so as a result, it gives us an opportunity to at least counterbalance our craziness of June, of something that is also very important to us. And so that doesn't mean that June's not important, because we want to have fun, but we also have this to be able to say, here are the people and the reasons why our community is so vibrant and why we should be celebrating when we get to June. So right now we're showing all of that, and then we'll count down to our next celebration in June.
And as a history student, a young history student, I know we can benefit from that in our schools right now.
Absolutely.
History is being stripped from the books. So it's important that we commemorate those who fought this fight a long time ago and continue that fight going forward.
Amen.
All right, and Elijah, we're going to do some entertainment.
Thank you. Well, now it's time to queer up entertainment. Hotspots magazine on stands with Kristine W. flies again. What makes this week's Hotspot magazine special is their interview it has featured in the magazine. Kristine W. of Fly Again has given an amazing interview to the magazine talking about her upcoming single. Kristine W. is riding dance floors full speed ahead this season with her new single, Can't Look Back, the first release from her upcoming album. Produced by Jeff, one of the masters of Tai Houser, the song is a lush, soulful club groove, made even more powerful with its message of rising up and appreciating the day. It was inspired by the passing of Kristine's mother and sister. She says she found solace through writing the song and hopes to share Can't Look Back now with the world so that it helps those experiencing similar losses to move forward too. It will be exciting for the LGBTQ+ community of South Florida to see their favorite singer in the longest running queer magazine. Kristine W. is adored by the LGBTQ+ community and is an outspoken supporter of LGBTQ+ rights, frequently performing at pride rallies and charity events for pro-LGBTQ+ organizations throughout the United States. Her Feel What You Want song from 1994 became hugely popular in the LGBTQ+ community and in gay dance clubs.
Sitting here thinking about what could have been, knowing very well we can't go back again. So tangled up in used to be's, refuse to
Pick up Hotspots magazine to read the full interview on more than 300 stands across Florida. So I don't really know who this is, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, well, I remember her. I was
Kristine W.
back
now
then.
in Las Vegas,
Yeah.
watching this report, going, ah, right?
Look up One More Try. You'll love it.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
I just can't believe 94 was as long ago as it was.
I know, right?
That song to me seems like it's just came out. Like it was part of my college life, and I was not in college anymore.
Right?
You
Well,
weren't born when Kristine W. You know, I just, this is LGBT History Month.
exactly.
So Kristine W. would not be LGBT because she's an ally, but we would talk about Kristine W. in LGBTQ History Month because she is one of the singers in allyship that has just been amazing because she has crossed over in her advocacy for our community in amazing ways. And her video, do you remember the video where she had the sparkle on her cheek? I think it was Fly Away. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I apologize for not being able to command it. But Kristine W. has been an advocate for the community unconditionally. And at best of times, worst of times, pandemic when there were no times, Kristine W. was still there. I interviewed her in the middle of pandemic in her house and basically saying, you know, what are we all doing these days? And she was just so fantastic because she advocates for the community in such amazing ways. And you really should read this article, and especially you should read this article to learn about who Kristine W. is, because if not, your gay card will be suspended for 48 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now let's queer up South Florida and Florida. OUTshine Film Festival delivers diversity and fun in Fort Lauderdale. The Miami Gay and Lesbian Film Festival started in 1998. The Fort Lauderdale Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in 2008. Both were brought together under one brand, OUTshine LGBTQ+ Film Festival, underscoring a broad appeal and dynamic multicultural location. Critically and internationally acclaimed, it serves as a platform for numerous premieres and is the largest LGBT cultural arts event in South Florida. OUTshine is an all-year cultural arts event with monthly screenings, sneak peeks of upcoming films, with both in-person events and virtual screenings at home. This year's OUTshine LGBTQ+ Festival starts on Thursday, October 13th, and ends on Sunday, October 23rd. The festival will begin with the opening film directed by Mariam Touzani, named The Blue Kaftan. The movie was selected as the Morocco submission to the Best International Feature category at the Oscars. The closing film will be The Shiny Shrimps Strike Back, directed by Cedric Legallo and Maxime Gouvert. The film is a sequel to The Shiny Shrimps, which won the Audience Award winner at OUTshine Fort Lauderdale in 2019. Apart from these films, In From the Side will be featured as the men's spotlight film, while the ladies' spotlight film of the festival will be The Five Devils, directed by Leah Macias. Viewers and film lovers can buy tickets online from the official website of the festival. The website homepage has a dedicated tab, using which you can purchase tickets for every film separately. The news program, Queer News Tonight, will be broadcasting from the opening night party and film at the NSU Art Museum. You can see complete details of one of America's most important LGBTQ film festivals at OUTshinefilm.com. I am so excited that the film festival is coming. I enjoy this every year. I've been around since 1998 when it first started in just Miami. And I just love the films, the community, the the inspiration that we all get at the film festival, and I hope I see all you guys at the film festival as well.
Hotspots I'm sorry.
Well, no, I like the fact that during the pandemic they were able to bring it to us by the internet, over online, and that still continues throughout the year. That makes a great way to see a nice film on a rainy hurricane day. But I do want to say that I'm not surprised at all that we'll be broadcasting live, because I never have known Al Ferguson to miss a good party.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm excited about that. Queer News Tonight, we're going to be doing this show at the opening night of the film that you just talked about, and of course the party. Of course. So it's going to be fun. Last year, it was funny for me. I went to many of the films last year, and it was the first time that I really dedicated myself to going to lots of the films. And I was, to be honest with you, I was frankly shocked how much I enjoyed it. I just thought, oh, well, I can see that in Netflix, or I could see that in Hulu, or whatever.
It turns out, no,
you can't.
That's
by the way, many of the major films that Netflix later promoted 5-6 months later had been at the OUTshine Film Festival. So it's not the way you work. It's just people repeating something that they don't really know anything about. And I thought that was interesting. And I enjoyed the community of it because I guess maybe coming out of pandemic, I really wanted to be in a room with 300 other LGBT people enjoying an experience. It's very funny. I went to Bros on Saturday, and the room was full of straight people. Thank you for coming. But it was a completely different experience than my memory of OUTshine. One other thing that I think is really super exciting about this event is you say it in terms of the shocking admission that you were there in '90 when it all started, is that both festivals originally that were started have come together under the same banner to unite in South Florida. That is completely unique in all of America. There is no LGBT film festival like it that does it twice in a year because of the geographics that are involved. If you look at in Southern California, there's some multiple festival events, and they compete with each other. And it's because we don't sometimes get along as well as we should. I love that South Florida says, no. Miami has OUTshine in the spring, and Broward County, Fort Lauderdale, has it in the fall, and we're all welcome no matter what. We all want to come under the banner of OUTshine Film Festival. Very unique, only place in America.
Yeah, and the quality of films is amazing, and buy your tickets and come to the movies. If you don't come to the festival and support the festival, we risk losing it. So buy your tickets, show up, and it's a hell of a time.
Yeah, and it's fun.
We're sponsoring one of the events for Truist. Is sponsoring the Centerpiece film, which is on, I'm going to say the date wrong, I believe it's the 19th. I have a lot of October dates coming up, by the way. And it's exciting because, again, as a cultural event, I think I agree with you, Al. I had been a couple times to a few movies. I went last year during the pandemic. The Hollywood Council partnered and promoted one of the events. OUTshine is a great partner. If your organization is out there and you're an LGBTQ organization and you want to partner with someone, OUTshine loves to partner with other organizations, and that's one of the reasons why we love working with them. They helped us with the Hollywood Pride event as well, and they're great partners.
Can I take an opportunity to become commercial just for a moment?
Your show, Al. Do it.
Picking this up, you just heard something that's so important for our community. Jeff Oliverio is at Truist Bank. Truist sponsors an event like one of the evenings at OUTshine Film Festival, cultural event, is the presenting sponsor of the National Task Force Dinner. We need our allies of sponsors. So while the key connection might be a Jeff Oliverio, it's not Jeff's money that's being put out on the table. It's a Jeff Oliverio convincing their business, who they work for, their employers, to say, our community is very, very important. And whether it be cultural, or whether it be health, or whether it be political, we need your support. And we need Truist banks. And we thank our sponsors like Truist to do that. And if you're hearing me as it relates to OUTshine Film Festival, your business that you work for, you should be doing the exact same thing. reach out to them to give them an opportunity of the business that you work for to integrate in LGBT. We are a great community and a great market, and it makes business sense for you to do exactly what Truist said. And Truist does.
Right.
And we thank Truist, and please pass on our respects to Truist that y'all did that.
We're very happy
Right.
to share
Plug here. I will definitely be at OUTshine Film Festival this year. I think it will be my first time there. But I will also possibly be on the screen too in a documentary. I'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
well, we're gonna talk about that. You kind of let the cat out of the bag.
But that's not for tonight.
Not tonight. We're not. Yeah.
Got to watch another.
Teaser alert.
Right.
Stay tuned.
Right.
Well, now let's queer up education. New poll shows majority of Floridians oppose DeSantis' Stop Woke and Don't Say Gay. A majority of Florida voters disapprove of two key pieces of legislation on social issues backed by Governor Ron DeSantis, according to a new survey. Released Monday, the Fresh Spectrum News Siena College poll shows 50% of respondents oppose the parental rights in education measure, which critics have pejoratively called Don't Say Gay law. Just 44% of respondents approve of the legislation. The Stop Woke Act, which is still being litigated in the courts, prohibits the teaching of so-called critical race theory in K-12 classrooms and workplaces. Similarly, it is a political loser, with 51% disapproval against just 34% approval. Central to the unpopularity of both measures is a significant minority of Republicans. A total of 28% of them disapprove of the so-called Don't Say Gay law, showing that the negative branding of the legislation left an impression on these respondents. Meanwhile, 38% of Republicans disapprove of Stop Woke, against just 48% approval. The criticism against both of these pieces of legislation extends to all age groups except in one case. A majority of respondents between the ages of 50 and 64 back the parental rights in education legislation, with 52% approval against, just 37% disapproval. But otherwise, the measure is underwater among people of all ages. I think it's interesting by asking these questions because a lot of times we get hung up ourselves as a community on Don't Say Gay and woke. And when you actually read legislation like this to a regular voter, I think that they become more unpopular. I think yelling Don't Say Gay at maybe a voter who thinks parental rights is a great initiative probably doesn't work for our cause, even though I believe that there was a good branding there. We have to start talking about what does the bill actually do and what does it do to our community? Because when you tell a reasonable middle-of-the-road person this, they become, oh, I wouldn't support that. My nephew's gay, or my sister is a teacher and she's a lesbian and we want her to talk about her family. We have to relate these things and stop using catchphrases to market everything because sometimes it gets lost in translation.
And I'm also honestly not surprised that it's 28% of Republicans because the whole party isn't a hive mind. There is a significant portion of people who, when they read it.
That's breaking news. The GOP are not the Borg? Is that
there are LGBT people all over the place. And I do think that, certain issues that Republicans, real Republicans, don't get is this whole anti-gay stuff. They are for the anti-immigration and that stuff, but they don't want history cleaned. We all grew up learning American history. Why should young people now not learn it? It's crazy.
I think this is something that I forgot about, so go ahead.
What I was going to say is this poll is really breaking news. First off, it's very timely. It's just come out. It's the biggest poll that has been done on the legislation for the woke, quote unquote, woke legislation in Florida and Don't Say Gay. Parental rights in Florida. So this is it is. It's breaking news. It's the largest poll of its kind that's been done in Florida. Here's a couple of the big picture points of what the poll says. First off, only 44% of Floridians support it.
Right.
In anything else, if that was gay marriage in Congress, gay marriage loses.
Right.
That's what this means. 44% can't pass anything. So it indicates that's what's going on. It is a strong vocal minority that is really leading the issues in Florida, and that's led by voices like Marco Rubio, Governor DeSantis, that Attorney General, et cetera, and so on. They've hijacked Florida in terms of their minority point of view. We have to remember that it is a minority we're fighting, not the majority of Floridians. The other thing that is really important in this poll is nearly 3 out of every 10 GOP also do not support this. That is important. While it is not a majority, a very significant minority of GOP say, why are we doing this? I don't support your comments about teaching issues about people of color in schools, much less the issues that relate to LGBT. We don't support it. They're not listening to them. They don't care about them. Again, it leads to the conclusion, a strong vocal minority of a DeSantis wanting to have a national campaign to the campaign road of being president of the United States. And that's why he's doing this. The final point that I think is the most important thing is what so many people criticize Queer News Tonight for. Why do you talk about this and talk about this and talk about this? Because the poll shows there's a very significant number of people in Florida that have not made up their minds. They don't know what to think about it. And so until they do, and they move into column A or column B, we're still pitching for them. We want them to support the LGBTQ community. We want them to support the Black community. We want them to support teachers, and we want them to support our schools and our students. And that's why we keep talking about it, because this battle is not over. It is a minority generated issue. And if we are going to defeat DeSantis, we have to keep putting the pressure on, which is why you do a national task force dinner, which is why you have a voting center on Wilton Drive, which is why we do stories like this in Queer News Tonight. The battle goes on. The war is not over yet.
I think it goes back to what Jeffrey was saying. It's the slogans and the catchphrases. So people don't really know what these things are about. They don't know what's in the bill. So when we take it to people and we strip the labels and titles away to Don't Say Gay, and we show them what this governor is actually doing to people, I think people look at that differently than this is the Don't Say Gay bill or the Stop Woke Act, which ironically Republicans use, stuff like that, titles like that to rally their base up. But it isn't stopping anything.
And let me move on, because here's one of the really good solutions to this problem. Let's move on by queering up LGBTQ plus civil rights. Here is what to expect from the October 22nd National Task Force Gala. The National LGBTQ Task Force Gala is the premier annual celebration of South Florida's LGBTQ plus community. The gala is a night for the LGBTQ plus people of Florida and really all over the country and their supporters to unite our community, honor our heroes, and advance equality. This year's gala will be held at the Miami Beach Convention Center on October 22nd. This is the 26th annual Task Force Gala, and the evening will feature a cocktail reception, a sprawling and spectacular silent auction, a sit-down dinner and an awards ceremony, and an after-party with DJ and dancing. This year's 2022 Eddie McIntyre Community Service Award will be given to the Gadinsky family. Members of the family, including, and I always mispronounce Libby, thank you, Libby, Seth, Naomi, and Natasha Gadinsky, for championing equality for LGBTQ plus people and broad social justice reform for more than 3 decades. The 2022 National Leadership Award will be given to a favorite of mine, as you might imagine, Jonathan Capehart, a Pulitzer Prize-winning associate editor of The Washington Post and MSNBC anchor, for his decorated career in journalism. And last but not least, X Gonzalez will be awarded the 2022 Changemaker Award. X's work as a gun violence prevention activist has been instrumental in energizing and mobilizing a generation of advocates. Task Force Gala 2022 can be booked at thetaskforcegala.org. Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network announced yesterday a special ambassadors program where you can support the National Task Force by having a party. Seems like a no-brainer for the gay community, LGBTQ community. You can become an ambassador of the task force and invite 10 of your friends to join the $50 open bar after party of the task force dinner. And then you will receive a $450 dinner gala ticket, complimentary as an ambassador for the task force. To participate as an ambassador, contact Chris Lattis at Chris at, and we're giving you the email address there, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. So the task force gala, gosh, I wish there was somebody qualified at the table that could talk about that. Oh wait, we have the National Task Force Chairman, dinner chairman, Jeff Oliverio with us. Tell us a little bit, Jeff, of what we're getting ready to experience.
Well, as you said, it is the premier iconic celebration on its 26th year, and we think it's going to be the biggest event ever in the history of the event.
The Gudinskis, of course.
Yes, we have legendary Gudinski family who have been longtime supporters of the event. Libby was the first ally chair of the National LGBTQ Task Force board, and she has been involved with the gala as an event for over 15 years. Her, Seth, and her children who grew up in the task force offices as they were doing this work. And their work dates back to time Cindy.
I'll talk about that when you're done.
You know, with Cindy.
Because I'm old.
We also have some great national figures.
Are you getting ready to talk about a time before there was electricity? Is that what I'm...
Alive then either.
Well, Seth was probably alive.
Yeah, we have you know, Jonathan Capehart, which we're really excited about. I think in a year of an election and attacks on the media, we really wanted to focus on somebody.
Person of color.
Yes, who stands
up against Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on.
You know, if you haven't caught some of his pieces on YouTube, on some of the work he's done, it's amazing. Yeah. He's a great voice.
Why the LGBTQ community was so critically important in the fight of what we saw over the last 4 years.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He's had some genius moments at MSNBC.
And then having X Gonzalez, who's from our local community, a Parkland survivor, and a guns activist, anti-gun activist, there at the gala to help us rally young voters to the polls. They have been really instrumental in doing that. And so our theme this year, of course, is Red, White, and You. It's really about how you can use your own voice to go to the polls and make LGBTQ history with your vote. So that's really what the theme is. The task force is supporting their own initiative, their Queering Democracy or Queer the Vote initiative, which is to rally LGBTQ voters to the polls. And then the other part of the funds raised goes to the Miami Foundation and Our Fund Foundation, which created an LGBTQ equity fund.
And Jeff, talk a little bit about not only the national impact, but the National Task Force is the national LGBT advocacy organization that's based here in South Florida for the entire nation. But it's not Los Angeles, it's not New York or Washington, it's sitting here in South Florida. Tell us a little bit about the work the task force does and this event specifically, how much it gives back to local community.
Well, it's unique because the task force is based, of course, in New York and DC. So that's where their advocacy work is done and their headquarters are. Their connection to South Florida, which Cindy was part of as well, brought them here to take over these two iconic events, Winter Party Festival. So these are their main fundraising events. However, they have become ingrained in the local South Florida community. A lot of their work on the ground, where we have great organizations like Equality Florida and SAVE that do on the ground work, their national advocacy work is supporting those causes. And then the funds raised from both of those events, as we mentioned in the intro, have given back over $3.3 million to local LGBTQ organizations here in South Florida. And the task force, I think their greatest thing that they do is they create leaders. They're creating Change Conference for LGBTQ.
Iconic event
yes.
in America.
You know, for those of you who have not attended or are interested in it, there's leaders from organizations across the country that have been trained by the task force. So while the task force may not be in your community, there may be a leader there that was trained by the
If you're interested, you should go to the National Task Force website. It's going to be in San Francisco in 2023. And basically, it is an interactive think tank of what is next for America and LGBT thought. It's just brilliant.
And in terms of local connections that the task force had back in the days, back in the 90s when I first met Libby and Seth and the little girls.
1890s?
Yeah, it's the 1890s.
Okay.
So the
Right after
girls,
the Civil War.
yeah, the girls actually also grew up in the Save Dade office. They would draw pictures. I mean, they were little. And we were trying to get the Human Rights Ordinance passed in Miami-Dade County. And the task force came to South Florida. They did a matching $50,000 grant. This is in the late 90s. And not only that, they sent us a staff member that trained us and then sent down other staff members as we were, door knocking and getting out the vote. So the task force is a big reason why SAVE and Save Dade has been able to accomplish as much, because SAVE were all trained by the task force.
Oh, I've never heard that story.
When people say, well, why should I give? I mean, that is a perfect example. And you're right. Nobody knows about it because it happened a long time ago, before, we had Facebooks and, smartphones. But the task force has been instrumental in the movement of rights for South Florida. Absolutely.
And Jeff, I want to ask before we close up with the news of the task force national dinner. Tell us a little bit about this new development of this program, of the ambassadors program. It seems like a genius idea to me, because everyone can't support.
Right.
In the same way. Everybody doesn't support in the same way. So many people will come and support the dinner from a dinner standpoint. There's volunteers that support. The after party is a $50 ticket, which is an enterable expense for virtually everyone. Tell us a little bit about how the ambassador works.
Well, last year we did make it one of our initiatives to engage more young people with the Gala. Obviously at $450, most young people can't afford a ticket to the Gala. And we looked around the room, we said, if all these people in the room are all the same age and look the same and act the same, we're gonna die a slow death by not bring new people into the organization, and also to learn about what the task force does. So we launched the after party as a separate ticket, a way to get more participation. So it's following the Gala. The Gala guests will arrive, but we're also going to have an after party where you can buy a separate ticket. The second thing we're doing with this ambassador program is a way for those who want to market for us, do a little social media post, and invite their friends. If you get 10 friends together and they buy 10 tickets, you will get a free ticket to the Gala. If you sell 20 tickets, you and your guests can come to the Gala. So it is a great way for us to get people, to give them some incentives to come, to participate, so they learn about the Gala. We do some trainings, because again, we don't just want to invite people to a party for free drinks. We want you to come to a party because we're going to talk about queer the vote. We're going to talk about queering democracy. We want to teach you something.
I was going to say,
and we are going to incorporate that night. We're going to really talk about it.
It's absolute capture that we talk about all of the time. The Vote Center is going to be on Welton Drive, and across the street there's going to be 500 times more people in that bar and that bar and that bar. So it's like, wait, maybe we should pay attention on how to do this.
Yeah,
that's not enough.
And aren't they busing people from up here to?
Yeah, there's some. Our fund is also partnering to bring guests to the event from Broward County, so that there's a little easier transportation issues for those who don't want to drive. We also have the Bright Line, of course, is another way people are going to be traveling. So I think we're trying to connect with location, but also with different diverse groups. And so it doesn't have to even be an individual that can be an ambassador. If you wanted to have, your nonprofit represented and you wanted to sell 10 tickets through your nonprofit, and then somebody from your organization can attend the event, we welcome that as well. So we're looking for any type of
Before
ambassador.
we close up, Elijah, I want to turn to you, because you're the perfect demographic of what we're talking about. I'm not sure, but I think Jeff called me an old white guy. I'll run the tape later, and
just that fact you called it a tape is
tape.
Right.
Wow.
Okay, there you go.
To this idea of the task force of having an ambassadors program, not on whether it's desirable, for example, maybe this is an opportunity for you to get into the room, but the idea that some of our centric organizations like the National Task Force would say, wait, we need more trans people, we need more lesbians, we need more Latinos, we need more people of color, we need more young people. What do you think about that messaging that's coming from the task force of what they're trying at least to discuss? Whether it's successful or not, we hope it is, but it's an attempt. What do you think about the attempt?
I think it's actually a really good attempt, and it sends a good message to young people that they're listening. Because I know $450 to go to a dinner, I could just eat dinner at home, to be honest.
Right.
But it sends a message that we don't want it to be just a room of old people with a lot of money.
Yes.
That we want to get the voices of people in our community who are the most marginalized, who have different perspectives, to be in those rooms with those folks. So I know Jeff reached out to me about this actually a few weeks ago. So I'll be following up on that. But it's so many galas and events throughout the year that I can't afford to get into, and I'm a political guy.
Right.
When I was running for office, it was tons of galas and events, and they were all $500, sometimes $1,000. And I don't know anyone in college who can afford to pay to go to all of these galas and have those opportunities.
And by the way, you do not have to apologize for being 23.
Except he did kind of just call the rest of us old a little bit.
I didn't hear any of that.
I'm curious as it relates to that. Do you think that this kind of messaging will land on the ears of saying you should get active in LGBTQ advocacy, which is really what the event is all about? Jeff is like a spider to the flies of going, I just need you to come into the room for a little while so I can talk to you. Do you think this strategy will be successful for expanding the base beyond the people, exactly as you've just said, wealthier people that are in the room? Do you think it'll expand the base in terms of?
Actually tell you this, I don't think most people, even young, who end up going to the gala are coming there for the food or the drinks. I mean, I know the drinks are going to be great, but I think most people are going there because they might be looking up to the people in the room, like Jonathan K. Parks and other folks who are going to be attending, and they want to be a part of this movement. They want to work and fight with all of us. So having them there, I think, is important.
Yeah. Well, we just encourage you. Make sure you go thetaskforcegala.org. Become an ambassador. Help promote the idea that you can participate in this $50 ticket that includes open bar. And by the way, and we're going to do a feature piece on it. We thank Bacardi. I talked about Truist.
I was going to
My goodness,
make sure I did
Bacardi
not forget
has
that.
stepped up to say, wait. We just want you to be in the room because it's valuable in and of itself. So we're putting our brand behind it because we think that this is so important, and we appreciate Bacardi stepping up. And I am in no way compensated in any way other than to say this is really important for our community. October 22nd, I can't help but wonder again what comes right after that in very close proximity. This is really, really important. We hope you're paying attention.
Thank you.
Okay, well, next we're going to queer up Florida and South Florida. Fort Lauderdale honors LGBTQ+ leaders to push importance of October LGBTQ+ History Month. Yesterday, the City of Fort Lauderdale and City Commissioner Steve Glassman read a proclamation in which the city will recognize October as LGBTQ History Month and acknowledge the contributions of the LGBTQ+ community to the city as a whole. Some of the key organizations that were recognized were longtime Hotspots magazine Happening Out television network partner organizations, including the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida and the executive director, Mark Kent, and director, Gabe Salazar. Also recognized for contributions to the community was Sunshine Cathedral and Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins and Reverend Dr. Robert Griffin. It should be noted that Fort Lauderdale is one of America's largest cities with an LGBTQ+ mayor, Dean Trantelis, and is home to one of America's largest and most diverse LGBTQ+ communities in America. Fort Lauderdale has also been recognized as the #1 LGBTQ+ tourist destination in total visitors in the world. Make sure you celebrate and learn more about this and other important stories during LGBTQ+ History Month. Excellent. That was such a nice. I saw a lot of Facebook pictures from the proclamation that was being made. It was nice to see so many people there, so many people represented and recognized, and for the city to step up like that's really great.
I think it's important for, going back to young people again, when you have like the Miami-Dade School Board voting not to recognize LGBTQ History Month, and then when municipalities come out and say that they are recognizing it, it kind of counteracts a little bit. It gives them, more validation that, LGBTQ History Month,
Matters.
It's just great news all around. It's just great news, and we'll be celebrating the LGBTQ community in Fort Lauderdale all month long. It is absolutely clear. That's great.
Right.
Absolutely. Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Now television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
I'm Gabe Salazar, Artistic Director of the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ+ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ+ news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, or Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ+ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ+ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots magazine, Happening Out television network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ+ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Elijah Manley, Dr. Tai Houser, Cindy Brown, and Jeff Oliverio. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. But before we end tonight, we have one final story.
Now, let's queer up the big interview. Southwest Florida prides, gay bars, pride centers, and devastation in our LGBTQ community. Southwest Florida has experienced severe damage due to Hurricane Ian, and the daily life of people is devastated beyond measure. The LGBTQ+ community of Florida has also taken a hard hit. Queer News Tonight anchor Al Ferguson sat down with 5 LGBTQ leaders from Florida, sharing their experiences and the impact of Ian on the community. Watch as he is joined by Corey Carasium of Naples Pride, AJ Ford of Pride Cape Coral, Billy Mann of Eden Fort Myers, Rachel Covello of Outcoast, and Alyssa LeMay, drag queen. The details of the current hurricane devastation on an estimated 83,000 Southwest Florida LGBT community members is shocking.
South Florida has experienced severe damage due to Hurricane Ian, and the daily life of people is devastated beyond measure. The LGBTQ+ community of Florida has also taken a very hard hit. Today, we are joined by 5 LGBTQ+ leaders from Southwest Florida, Ground Zero, sharing their experiences and the impact of Ian on the community. Let us welcome first from the Naples Pride and Naples Pride Community Center Executive Director, Corey Kristine. Here in the studio joining me from Fort Myers Pride, Fort Myers area Pride Cape Coral, is their president, AJ Ford. Representing the LGBTQ plus business community is Fort Myers Eden Show Bar, a gay bar in Fort Myers, and the owner, Billy Mann. Representing the LGBTQ plus community entertainers affected by Hurricane Ian is Southwest Florida's famous drag queen, Alyssa LeMay. And joining us, I am happy to introduce, is Queer News Tonight anchor and It's Happening Out host, Rachel Covello. Rachel is the publisher of Florida's West Coast most important LGBTQ plus media publication, Outpost. Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining Queer News Tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we're going to explore what happened in this historic hurricane that had landfall in Southwest Florida at the end of last week. But more importantly, we're going to explore what actually happened and now what the LGBTQ community is facing. And before we begin, we want to, I spoke yesterday to Jason Beckman, and Jason is a board member for Southwest Florida Pride, and he's an LGBTQ member of the Lee County Tourism Bureau. And he had an interesting observation, and we want to read that quote to you now. He said, "I made the decision to leave and find a flight out of Miami to Chicago," which is where he is currently. "I can't live and work where there is no reliable internet, power, and water. The devastation in Southwest Florida is especially painful for me because I have worked for years on Sanibel Island for their Arts Center and Lee County's Tourism Bureau, marketing the beaches and islands to visitors. Seeing so much of these places just gone, disappeared in a single day, is honestly unbearable. I'm still in shock. I really don't know that I even have the words of what the LGBTQ plus community has faced." Powerful, powerful message. AJ, let me start with you. You're here in studio with us. You're president of Cape Coral Pride. You happen to be here in Wilton Manors, and you have no power, I understand. Tell us a little bit tell us a little bit about your experience and what happened.
So, I mean, all of us were under the impression that it wasn't going to make landfall on Cape Coral and that it was going to be more Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, Boca Grande, or whatever, and Tampa, St. Pete originally. And for the last 40 years, my mother has even lived in Cape Coral. It's always been, oh, it's not going to hit us. It's not going to hit us. So we prepared, but we kind of probably underprepared for this, And we all went to her house to ride out the storm. Both of my best friends and my mother, her husband, and the dogs. And by 9 a.m. Tuesday, we had already lost power. And the last hurricane,
a full day and almost a half
before
it hit.
Before, it was it hit Tuesday, evening-ish. The eye is when it started coming around 2 p.m., I think I want to say. But we lost power at 9 a.m. And what she had said to me was, "Oh, we'll be fine. Hurricane Irma, we didn't even lose power. We were good." And our power was off maybe for 7 hours or something like that. That didn't end up happening, obviously, and we are still without power.
And you're here in Wilton Manors, here on the east coast of Florida for national viewers, almost directly across the state. You were in the west coast, now you're on the east coast. And any anticipation, any word in terms of when there'll be some normalcy for you to be able to return home?
So I got a text message last night from LCEC, and they had said
LCEC is
the Lee County Electric Center.
Yeah. More than 200,000 in this electric cooperative have no power at the moment of this broadcast.
Yeah, and they said October 8th is when they were looking to have about 95% of the Lee County or Cape Coral. I can't remember if it was Lee County or Cape Coral up and running. But I mean, that's still almost a week out.
Another week, yeah. And I want to bring in now Corey Krasium. Corey is the executive director of Naples Pride, which is the county south of Fort Myers in Collier County, Florida, and also runs the Naples Pride Community Center. Corey, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the onset of, so the hurricane comes. What happens to your Pride Center? Tell us a little bit about that.
It got flooded, and we had no power. It wasn't even safe to go to it the day of. So I had to wait till the next day when when the water retrieved, and then I got in there and the damage. Fortunately, it wasn't, the water wasn't as high as in other places. We salvaged what we could. We expect more damage as the things start drying up. The doors don't close and things like that. But it's all fixable.
And Corey, I'm correct in saying you currently do not have power at the Pride Community Center. Yeah. Do you have an anticipation of when you'll be able to return to services?
We're hoping Wednesday.
Wednesday.
We had power for like 3 hours. From behind the building blew up. We were, supposedly Wednesday, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, and I want to talk in a bit more of what your services are going to be when you reopen. I want to bring in Billy Mann. Billy Mann is the owner of Eden Show Bar, and I asked Billy right before we went on the air when they were able to open. And Billy, you said you were able to get back in the next day. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, actually, because the storm was that Thursday or that Wednesday, and we came in to some damage to Eden, that day. So it took us a day to clean up, but we were actually able to open Friday to the community for food and drink, or just anybody just to get out and cool down a little bit, because even though we had some damage to the roof and some of our windows, and we're grateful that we were able to get open for the community.
Yeah, and I followed your Facebook page over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, when there was literally so much devastation in Lee and Collier County. Eden Show Bar was able to open. You had a bit of a limited length of hours because of a curfew at 9 p.m. in Lee County. Tell us what the experience was like of LGBT being able to come to our other type of gay community center, or our Pride centers, which are gay bars. Tell us what that was like on Saturday and Sunday.
I'm going to tell you, everybody was so grateful that, and I'm grateful that we were able to open and be here for people of our community, and plus our allies or anybody that's just in the surrounding areas. They were just so thankful, and just to get a hot meal, water. We're still struggling with getting some items. That's why it's still limited as far as like having ice or certain food or whatever, because all of my deliveries were suspended before the storm hit.
I have heard anecdotally, Billy, that Eden Show Bar was very lucky. I understand the gay bar on Cape Coral has had its roof torn off. Tell us if you know, do you know any of the details of that?
The only thing that I heard was the same thing that you have, as far as I did hear that. I don't even know if they're even open as of yet. Just from the other people out of the community that have been coming here, you know, I think most of their staff and owner, I think Mike, the owner there, is there every day trying to get it up and running.
And what's the name of that bar, please?
It's called Cruisers.
Cruisers, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And Billy, representing the business interest, LGBT-owned businesses in Southwest Florida, what do you think the effect of the storm so far is going to be on a variety of LGBT business and business owners in Southwest Florida? What's the outcome of this going to be?
Well, definitely, I think the outcome is that I think that we all need to work together to make us stronger and stuff like that. I mean, just to be there, you know, for each other and, you know, help us all work through. Everybody's devastated by everything that's here. You know, during the storm, I was checking on my staff members. I had one staff member that was on Pine Island, and literally until I lost phone service, he was still out there, and it took him 2 days, thankfully, survived and was able to get here. So just showing compassion for anybody that walks through these doors, you know, community plus its allies and whatever. I just really hope the best for the future, that we can all just
I want to provide some context of what Billy is talking about. Pine Island, like Sanibel Island, is a barrier island west of Fort Myers. The bridge to Sanibel Island has been completely disrupted in 3 locations. So if you're trapped on one of the barrier islands, your only manner of escape now is by emergency ferry service. In terms of the effect. We're currently not showing you pictures of the effect of the hurricane, but at Fort Myers Beach, the downtown area of Fort Myers Beach, you have seen for our national and international audience, is for all intents and purposes, for blocks and blocks, gone. Has been wiped out by the hurricane. We try to message the national and international LGBT audience. If you've been to Wilton Manors in Fort Lauderdale, or you've been to South Beach in Miami Beach, imagine blocks of Wilton Manors or blocks of Ocean Drive in South Miami Beach gone. That is the kind of devastation that we're talking about here in Southwest Florida, and Billy has dodged a bullet. We're happy about it. One of the other stories that we want to tell is what's going to happen to people who work. And we have with us in our conversation Alyssa LeMay. Alyssa is a very noted drag queen in Southwest Florida. I have to make sure that I clarify, in Southwest Florida. Alyssa, tell us about what the experience of the Hurricane Ian has been for you.
Well, the first is always, if bars close down, restaurants close down, that's when my first thought is, oh, well, I'm not getting a paycheck. So obviously, saving money has always been a important thing for me. But while the storm was going on, it was just constant back and forth with my friends, other show directors, other entertainers, just making sure everyone's okay. One of my best friends got water in her house. She's in Cape Coral, working to clean everything out. Thankfully, not a total loss. It's just a total mess. But yeah, it's right now it's all staying in contact, and we're going to start up shows that we can start up while, like Eden is reopened. We're going to start that back up. I know Rascals is going to be opening back up. They'll be doing shows. It's just, we're going to get people working again.
So far in our broadcast at this point, no entertainment opportunities for you yet to work in Southwest Florida. Is that correct?
No, actually, I was fortunate. Bambusa Bar and Grill down in Naples, we did open up this weekend. They had less damage than Fort Myers area and a less restrictive curfew. So we were able to do a show Saturday night. and it was small, but people were out and people were in good spirits. And it's just one of our friends there, he lost his house both in Irma and then just lost his house again in this storm. And he was there and just, I mean, he looked defeated, but you know, he was staying positive, and we were just there to have a good time, and we did the best we could to raise everyone's spirits.
You know, Alyssa, and admirable, and that's what drag queens do, by the way. Congratulations to you. Every drag queen I know would message the same way. Lots of friends I know working in entertainment. Lots of friends that you have in LGBTQ community. What are you hearing from them in terms of concerns? So much power outage. We're reporting at this hour that in Southwest Florida, even at this point, 6 days later, 500,000 residents in Southwest Florida are without power, which means they can't work. Their job has been suspended. We've reported at Queer News Tonight in LGBTQ community, a full 70% of LGBT, because of hospitality industry drivers, do not have more than 14 days of savings to get through. What are your friends saying in Southwest Florida? Help us understand what they think and concerns that they might have.
Like I said, I only just got power back yesterday, so I was without it all weekend. I was lucky I had a friend that I could go to in Naples and stay there for a while. But I have friends here at my house right now that don't have power and don't have water. The initial aftermath of the storm, I think everyone's concern was, is everyone safe? Does everyone have somewhere to go? The supplies we need. And as we're coming into the next weekend, I think that's when people are going to start, wanting to try to get in shows, obviously make a little extra money to pay for food and gas and things that we lost while the power was out.
I want to bring in Rachel Cavello. LGBTQ media has their pulse on the community as a whole. And Rachel's participation in our conversation about Southwest Florida is so important. Outcoast, very fine publication for and media platform for the LGBTQ community, the media for the West Coast of Florida. Rachel has, as we said, been on Queer News Tonight, and it's happening out as an anchor. Rachel, covering the West Coast of Florida, first off, you dodged a bullet. You were in St. Petersburg in Tampa Bay. You thought it was coming to you. You had to have that same reaction of, wait, the turn is good for me, but boy, somebody's going to be walloped. Tell us a little bit about your eye on LGBT and the hurricane.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Outcoast actually covers the entire state. We focus on tourism to Florida from the LGBT perspective. So okay. I do live on the West Coast, but we kind of have our pulse on everything all over Florida. I have several, as a resident, my fear obviously was the storms coming to us. We went through this during Irma. I had honestly purchased my first home in Florida when Irma hit back in 2017, and we dodged that bullet. This time we didn't think we would be lucky like we were. And we dodged a huge bullet. I mean, we had actually, my wife and I had escaped over to closer to your side of the state. We actually were in Okeechobee, thinking that we'd be far out of, hurricane path. And ironically, we wound up getting hit a little bit more over there than we did at our house here. I had left on Monday to get over across the state with our dogs. My wife kind of, spent hours and hours. I mean, we have a very large yard with a lot of garden stuff outside, and everything had to come in, anything that could be a projectile. So she got everything ready, and then she headed across the state to be with me. And by the time she left on Tuesday, we knew that the storm would probably be heading more south. But we were still concerned about potential winds because we have a little travel trailer and we didn't want to damage both of our homes. So we wanted to take that to safety. And so we did survive. We had the, power the whole time. We never lost internet. Now St. Pete in Tampa Bay did lose a lot of power. So I don't want to minimize that. There was definitely a lot of power loss over here too, but we were one of the lucky ones. I remember the couple of hours that, once I knew we were okay, I knew we'd go through a few hours of, high winds. We probably hit about 70 to 90 miles per hour over where we were. But my job at that point was, okay, what's going on in Florida? We have LGBT leaders and friends and sponsors and partners around the state. Are they okay? What's the state of affairs there? Corey is a good friend of mine from Naples, and Michelle, one of her colleagues with the Naples Pride Center, also works for the Visitor Bureau there. So I was constantly in touch with both of them, especially Michelle. And I would get texts like, okay, power just went out. The noise won't stop. I mean, these hurricane sounds will probably cause PTSD in people for years to come. And just, what can we do now? I live in Tampa. The road I-75, as we know, was shut down because of flooding and the dam that broke. And we want to help. We want to get down there to bring supplies. And authorities are telling us, don't do that yet. We're starting to a little bit, but just kind of trying to keep a pulse on how we can help people, how we can support our LGBT community all over the state, especially in South Florida.
Rachel, I want to ask, Outcoast does a great job, and focusing on this specific area, other areas of LGBTQ community in Florida were obviously affected, but not to the degree of Southwest Florida. No,
definitely not. Definitely
not. You have your finger on that pulse. What are your big concerns for LGBT Southwest Florida now, 6 days later?
As a friend of the LGBT community everywhere, especially in Southwest Florida, and as someone who works with the Visitor Bureau there on the tourism spectrum, or the tourism focus, everything's kind of on pause with what do we do as far as marketing these destinations. As you saw Jason's comment about, he's been promoting Lee County forever in the beaches. Like, that's all put on hold right now until we start cleanup effort. I think it's definitely going to change tourism for quite some time. And as we know, tourism is the #1 money generator in the state of Florida, especially for these destinations who rely on, tax dollars and from tourism. I think it's important to make sure we're reaching out to people like Corey. How can we help? And really important for us to make sure we're listening to how they need help. If we just bring trucks and trucks of stuff down that maybe they don't need those things, maybe we need to make sure that we know, okay, do you have enough water? Do we really need to bring that? Or is gas more important right now? That's, I think, a big focus, and is reaching out to those groups. Obviously, businesses are going to hurt for a while. I'm not to be, self-focused too. I'm thinking, okay, what do we do? We've gotten through, this has been a few crazy years. We went through Irma from Florida travel perspective. We went through COVID. We've been dealing with the political aspects going on in our state. And now we're getting hit with Ian from a travel perspective. I'm thinking, how do we work with these tourism destinations? How do we keep moving forward and promoting the state as a place to be, and doing so in a way that's respectful to the destinations that have been damaged, being able to help them, but still doing our job too. So I don't have all the answers. None of us have the answers. I think it's taking it a day at a time and communicating.
Before we talk about the what's next and our need, I read a meme over the weekend that I thought was hilarious about the LGBTQ. Somebody in Fort Myers had done a meme that we saw, and it was very funny because it said, we survived the pandemic, we survived Hurricane Ian, and we're surviving Hurricane DeSantis. But what's next? And it's a very funny meme because the LGBTQ community has really taken some knocks in the last couple of years. Before and if we can open our conversation up with everybody, I want to give you a couple of the facts about the impact of this storm. First off, I make the joke about the governor. He has identified it as the big one in Florida. Governor DeSantis said on Saturday, Florida has never seen a flood event like this in our history. We remind everybody that Hurricane Ian came ashore in Fort Myers. It is the 5th largest storm in U.S. history. But the importance of the impact of this storm compared to like the panhandle of Florida, it hit three major population centers in Florida: Southwest Florida, Central Florida in Orlando, and then the exit of Daytona and Jacksonville. A lot of people do not realize, as we put up that number, about 83,000. It is estimated that in Southwest Florida, 83,000 LGBTQ residents live in Southwest Florida. So it has had a major impact on LGBTQ communities. Hurricane Ian had two landfalls in Southwest Florida at 150 miles an hour, and we've already reported there that more than 500,000 at this moment of our broadcast here at Queer News Tonight are still without power 6 days later. And many are reporting that there could be thousands in Southwest Florida, both people and business, without power for weeks, is the forecast. We talk about the flooding situation. We put the information out there that the highest flood surge in the history of Southwest Florida happened here with more than 7 feet of water. And so when we talk about Fort Myers Beach, it's almost impossible to wrap your mind around the fact that there is a wall of 7-foot water consistently for hours and hours and hours, which this was. And in terms of rainfall, the other issue for Ian, rainfall broke all records. 30 inches fell in 24 hours. It's mind-boggling, the power of this storm. And we also report that more than 500 water rescues occurred in Southwest Florida, where the barrier islands were completely cut off. So a very significant event. I want to thank all of you again and kind of zero in on the what's next for us. And Corey, for sure, I want to talk about the Pride Center in Naples. Tell us about what's happening now at the Pride Center and what the Naples Pride Center is doing for community, what you're going to do next, what's important for us all to know about LGBT in Southwest Florida.
Well, like I said, the center flooded, and over the weekend we went and cleaned up, and like literally the minute that we got in there, we're doing the cleanup in the same time we put out a call for people to send us supplies and donate, and we were cleaning up and organizing at the same time. So we threw a lot of stuff that we had in the center. We went out and got brand new shelves and supplies for people, and then people started bringing, what they could. And so we got a one end cleanup crew. On the other end, we got supply organizing, and we started making like individual bags. And then we started going out to neighborhoods from, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Naples, and giving those out. Started calling the county for supplies, the Harry Chapman Food Bank for supplies. Went to St. Matthew's House, which is a homeless shelter. We went there to ask for whatever we could get our hands on to just give out to people. We don't have power, like I said. Things are still wet, and doors are gonna be be replaced, but it doesn't matter because I think it's what the people are enduring right now. It's just unbearable to watch.
Corey,
yeah.
I read that the Naples Pride Center is not only going to, in collection of things that community needs, that you're going to be assisting not only LGBTQ community, but you're going to be working with the broad community also. Tell us a little bit about that and what the Pride Center will be doing.
So really, we are helping communities that have been affected and places that have been flooded that people really cannot go anywhere to get the help that they need. So like in Naples, we have like 3 areas, like in East Naples. Then we have areas in Fort Myers and Cape Coral. People's cars got flooded. They cannot drive places. So then we go and do that. And we don't ask them if they LGBT or not. We know everybody needs help, so we get calls, we get people's addresses, and then we just go there and just share with everybody. Because when we ask for help, also everybody helps us. So I do feel like sticking together, and this is the only way we're gonna get through this as a united community. Because it doesn't matter what, who you love or what your background is. It's everybody needs help at this time, and really we're just trying to help everybody that needs help.
And Corey, what can listeners that are listening to your voice right now that want to help the Naples Pride Center, what do you want us to do? How do we go about doing it?
So we need supplies, a lot of supplies, like cleaning supplies. People sleep on the floors. We need blankets. Kids are gonna start going back to school. They need uniforms. There's people that still don't have power. They need non-perishable food, water. There's still a boiling water notice in places. So we're delivering water. So they can either donate. We have that donation link on our Facebook page, on our website. Just text for Hurricane Ian relief. I have it somewhere. It's on the website.
Yeah, and we're also putting up emergency site of how people can help. Your website is naplespride.org, I believe.
Naplespride.org, correct. Yes. And our Facebook page is there.
Yes, Naples Pride Center. You can see that. If we can bring everybody back in production, so that's Pride Center. I want to ask you, AJ, while Corey is here, do either of you have any concerns that the effect of the hurricane will affect the mission of your two prides going forward? Any concerns at all?
I mean, right now, most of my board members don't have power, they don't have water. We barely have cell service, so none of us can really communicate. There's only like a very few of us communicating within our board, like our giant group text message and stuff like that. Most of us, there's no communication. There's no way for us to outreach to anybody at this moment. I was talking to my friend Crystal at Visuality, and she runs like a youth organization group, and she was telling me there's no way for her to contact her kids. She works with over like 20 kids on a weekly basis. They do like meetups, and she has no way to contact them. And a lot of them may come from homes where their parents are non-affirming, and there's no cell service. There's no way to organize meetups. We're kind of at a loss right now.
I'm curious from your seat. We read you the statement that Jason Beekman gave us, and heart-wrenching to us, because it's basically, we're so shocked that we don't even understand the depth of our shock. Would you agree with that? That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, my community as a whole, where my mother lives and where I grew up, it looks like a war zone, and there's helicopters flying over from the Army, the National Guard, the Coast Guard, like it sounds like a war zone, it looks like a war zone, and I'm thankful that I'm not there right now, because I did the 4 or 5 days without power, and I was able to get gas and come to this coast. We couldn't go north because I-75 was flooded and blocked off in multiple different entryways, so.
Well, in terms of everyone's participation, to my question, one of the things that we know at Queer News Tonight for sure of what a dire emergency this is we're broadcasting from the Happening Out television studios at Sunshine Cathedral. It's the largest queer church in the world here in Fort Lauderdale. Just yesterday and on Saturday, Sunshine Cathedral had 15 emergency requests from Southwest Florida for water. Just for water over the weekend. And it was an indication to us that this is just beyond impact that we don't even understand yet. It's just trickling out in terms of the gigantic need that is coming. Billy, from your perspective and LGBTQ business in Southwest Florida, what do you think is going to happen next? Eden is up. You're going to serve almost like a community center as Gay Bar in terms of food and beverage and entertainment, and especially a gathering place for community. What do you think is going to be next for business?
As long as we can actually be out there for everybody to kind of work together. Like I said, I was like one of the lucky ones to actually not get as much damage or flooding or anything like that. But like for the other area businesses, like I am a member of the Southwest Florida Harmony Chamber of Commerce. That's for the LGBTQ plus community. So I talked to Sue, who is the president of the Chamber of Commerce, almost daily, just to see what we can do for the community and stuff like that. But I think that we just need to be available and still try and hopefully run a business and stuff for the community that we have here. You know, it was devastating to all of us. That was probably one of the largest storms that lasted for hours and hours in Fort Myers, and the flooding that happened, not, you know, to downtown alone with the storm surge and everything. You know, there's a lot of LGBTQ plus businesses that are closed. So, you know, I'm here for the community. I can try and offer whatever I can to help. And this weekend, even with our curfew, like Andy, Alyssa is going to be performing this weekend to try and give some kind of entertainment, you know, whatever we can do. So.
Alyssa, it gives me an opportunity to come back to you before we wrap up. You hear Billy's challenge? You're going to be performing this weekend. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be in situations where they're still without power, or they don't have the ability, as AJ said, to connect with friends in a situation where it's affirming to the LGBTQ community. From your perspective, what's going to happen next? Not only for you as of working and a job and being a drag queen and being in community, what do you see is going to happen next?
I think the biggest is just people are going to have to get together and help your friends, be a great neighbor. People are going to get stressed, especially if they don't have power or food, but we just have to be compassionate and help out our friends.
Yeah. Well, if production could bring everyone's face up one more time, you have to look at some heroes here that are fighting and standing up for the LGBTQ community. We just remind you again, we're putting up images of where you can reach out and help. Florida Disaster Relief, American Red Cross, Volunteers Florida. You can't donate any money, but you certainly can donate your time. And that is really critical. We're putting up the information about the Naples Pride Center and the help directly that they need. And don't forget the emotional need. This storm, you heard it in multiple messages in this conversation, of the emotional effect this storm will have on the LGBTQ community. We give you two emotional supports, including the Trevor Project, where you can talk to a trained counselor to express the anxiety that you have 24 hours a day. Take advantage of that service. And remember, we are just beginning to learn what a gigantic event this is. 83,000 estimated LGBT in this direct affected area in Southwest Florida. And it's our first opportunity of likely many to be able to get that story out. Rachel, I want to finish with you. Congratulations at Outcoast. Rachel was dramatically beneficial and helpful to Queer News Tonight in helping us arrange this today. And we're very grateful for you to help us get this story out.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we want to do whatever we can to help the LGBT community across the state. So lean on us, use us as a resource to connect people. We want to see Florida back, obviously, and we want to make sure we're helping our community get to that point. So
yeah, well, thank you. Everyone. Thank you again. And remember, day 6, as we're doing this report, 500,000 residents in Southwest Florida have no power. Multiples sitting in this panel on Hurricane Ian and its effects on the LGBTQ community. To Alyssa LeMay, Rachel Covello, Corey Crasium, AJ Ford, and Billy Mann. Everyone in our community is rooting for you, and we're going to follow the story, and we're going to help you and support you. And above all else, we want to make sure that you know your friends here in South Florida and really all over the country, we're thinking about you tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with Queer News tonight.